welcome to the 75th episode in our AI and You podcast series. Today is Monday, December 27th, 2021, and I'm your host, Vikar Saidi. I'm a computer scientist and engineer, a lecturer, and a consultant. I'm also the author of several books. My most recent book is about artificial intelligence and is titled The Genome Affair. The Genome Affair is a speculative work. It examines what the world might be like if some of the more extraordinary capabilities forecast to be realized in AI over the next 20 to 30 years were actually realized today. Given the growing list of frightening existential threats humankind now faces, the book pays particular attention to the impact AI is expected to have on world affairs. The book is available in ebook format for those who prefer to read on a digital device, but it's also available in a high-quality paperback edition. The Genome Affair is available on Amazon, so I hope you'll take the time to read it and to leave a review. Amazon book reviews are very helpful for writers. I'm very interested in how science and technology influence world affairs and the big questions facing humankind. Studying at the confluence of the great disciplines of human history, political science and thought, international affairs, science and technology offers a deep understanding and pedagogically important lessons of how advances in human endeavor have influenced and impacted civilization. I'm available to give talks on artificial intelligence and its related technologies and on the impact AI is expected to have, or is already having, on our world. If you'd like to get in touch with me to arrange a web-based event or consulting meeting with your company or organization, you can find my contact info in the podcast notes below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with others if you find the content valuable. Thank you. And now, on to today's podcast. In our last podcast, episode 74, I spoke about AI, climate change, and pandemics, and whether we now have a case for a new world order in which we reimagine global governance. In today's podcast, episode 75, I'll speak about AI, New Year's resolutions, and societal reformation. Let's get started. During the waning days of December, it is customary amongst introspective members of society to reflect upon the year just passed. These thoughtful individuals often reflect not only upon their own journey in the concluding annum, their personal achievements, development, and shortcomings, but also upon that of their society, and perhaps even more broadly, that of civilization itself. Indeed, reflection on these three critical levels has never been more important than it is today, since the world is evolving very rapidly, and the pace of change is unprecedented in human history. In fact, it seems we have reached a point in human history such that if we do not commit to a near constant state of reflection, with a corresponding resolve to pursue critical reformation at the individual, societal, and civilizational levels, our collective future is likely to become untenable. In the 20th century, Kodak, an iconic American company, was comfortable in its expectation that the world would continue to buy its film for so many Kodak moments, and that it would do so for eternity. Kodak was tactically correct, but strategically wrong. Kodak was keenly aware of the changes taking place in the digital domain. These revolutionary developments were occurring in plain sight, but the company was complacent and never really considered the developments in digital technology to be an existential threat. We could say Kodak was fat, dumb, and happy. These continued to profit handsomely. They continued to profit handsomely from the sale of film and unrelated products. But once the rapid industrial transition to digital commenced, they were wholly unprepared. It has been a long time since anyone who came of age during the Kodak generation has heard or seen this once storied name mentioned in the news. Kodak's inability to solemnly reflect on the changes taking place around them and then reform themselves so they could adapt to a new emerging reality has confined them to the history books. There, they have joined so many other great industrial companies of the past, who also remained tactically successful, while woefully ignorant of the need for reflection, reformation, and the importance of adaptability. In the 15th century, the Ottomans dominated trade flows from China, India, and the Spice Islands of Southeast Asia, bound for the West. They controlled both land and maritime routes, and collected taxes on all goods passing through their ports of authority. This created a powerful impetus for the Dutch, English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish powers of the day to find ways to trade directly with the primary sources of the goods they desired. The European powers began exploring new sea routes to bypass Ottoman naval power in the Red Sea, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Eastern Mediterranean, and eventually began sailing around the Horn of Africa on their way to India and Southeast Asia. In fact, the desire to break free of Ottoman maritime control over critical sea routes was instrumental in the Europeans' discovery of the Americas. The Ottomans were aware of the discoveries being made by European sailors. They even possessed a copy of the map Christopher Columbus used when he discovered the New World, the modern Bahamas. Today, Columbus's map is lost, but the Ottoman copy survives. The Ottomans interviewed sailors involved in the European explorations, so they knew well about the discoveries being made. Nevertheless, Ottoman rulers had succumbed to nothing less than pathological complacency. Despite comprehensive knowledge of what the Europeans were up to, the Ottomans were satisfied with their tactical success. They continued to control the land and maritime routes necessary for goods to cross from east to west, and they continued to increase their wealth by taxing the transit of these goods. But by the time the Ottomans realized that the game was up, and the Europeans were now capable of bypassing Ottoman military and naval power arrayed along the traditional trading routes, it was too late. Ottoman satisfaction with the status quo, their inability to recognize the need for reflection and reform, and the need to adapt to changing realities triggered the decline of a once extraordinary, pluralistic, tolerant, and powerful civilization. Perhaps the most important takeaway from Charles Darwin's seminal work on the origin of species was the notion that for a species to survive and thrive, it must continuously adapt to a constantly changing environment and reality. Both Kodak and the Ottomans' inability and unwillingness to commit to regular reflection and the necessity of reformation led to their eventual demise and irrelevance. Today, many societies realize that the world is changing rapidly, but rather than reforming their culture and society with a commitment to pursue enlightenment values, motivated by short-term political gain, they engage their society in the pursuit of irresponsible, nostalgic fantasies. In America, we have seen the Republican Party's efforts to convince gullible and poorly educated loyalists that they can successfully resurrect a long past post-World War II era when white America was solidly in control and at its best. In Britain, Brexit loyalists believe they can recreate the Age of Empire, when Britannia ruled the high seas and controlled a quarter of the world's landmass and population. In Russia, an authoritarian demagogue is trying to recreate the Soviet Union, whilst in the Islamic world, militant groups are determined to recreate a medieval caliphate. The result is that the militants have created nothing short of chaos and misery for their people, whilst also erecting two narco-states, Afghanistan and Syria. Meanwhile, in Israel, Messianic Orthodox Jews have outdone everyone in the world with their nostalgic efforts to resurrect Second Temple Judaism from 2,500 years ago. But the reality is that all such nostalgic fantasies will fail. There were a multitude of interrelated factors that constituted the reality of these different eras, and no one understands the relationships between these factors, let alone how to recreate such an environment. The future of any society that wastes precious resources and time and raises false hopes for the realization of these nostalgic fantasies amongst their citizenry will be bleak. They would do much better to rationally consider present realities and the emerging geopolitical, scientific, and technological changes that will shape our future. It is only through such critical thinking and introspection that we can successfully reform any culture or society and embark on an enlightened path for a hopeful future. For those who reject such reflection, reformation, and adaptation, the future will likely resemble that of Kodak and the Ottoman Empire. We live in a time in which new information is being added to the internet on an hourly basis. Artificial intelligence-enabled search algorithms can now parse through seemingly infinite volumes of information regarding any subject on the internet and enlighten humankind in ways that have never been possible in the past. The broader society can now be made aware of historical realities that have remained hidden for generations, centuries, and in some cases millennia. Failings and misdeeds of societies that were previously known to only a few, and carefully hidden in dusty volumes in dark corners of prestigious university and city libraries, can now be uncovered by even the most unsophisticated person, equipped with nothing more than a smartphone. Soon, AI-enabled search engines from Google will be able to parse video and audio recordings for knowledge as well. Natural language processing tools such as GPT-3 from OpenAI in San Francisco will synthesize this knowledge across languages and disciplines unlike anything we have ever witnessed. In the final analysis, the longer a group or society we care deeply for delays in confronting difficult chapters and truths from their history, so they can begin to reflect, reform, and adapt to this fast-changing world, the greater the risk that they will become irrelevant or extinct. Thank you for spending some time with me. I'm trying to follow the TED Talk format, and so I'm keeping these podcasts under 20 minutes. Let me know what you think. I hope you'll find these insights into artificial intelligence helpful, and I hope you will read my new book, The Genome Affair. It's on Amazon. Until next time then, this has been the AI and You podcast with author Vikar Saidi.